Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about Remiel, who is the angel of mercy. Of course, before we get into it, just a reminder that I didn't always believe in angels, and that the content that I load is based on my personal experiences or understandings or both, or information that I've received from other people. And I invite and welcome your comments, your thoughts, your feedback, your experiences, as part of your own journey. If you've had experiences with angels, just as part of growing the whole of us, if you like, for all of us. If angels is not part of your experience to date, if you haven't given it a whirl, I always say, look, just try and hold an open mind. You've got nothing to lose by calling upon them. Just invoke. When you pray or invoke, call upon the Creator first, followed by your angel, and you really can't go wrong if it's Remiel that you're calling on, or any of the angels that I put up here. I'm probably not being very clear right now. So let me recap that, because obviously I'm in a rush and on a roll, and I need to slow down and catch my breath. Okay, back to what I was saying. When you call upon the Creator, and then whatever angel it is that you're trying to connect with or receive the blessings from, when you call upon the Creator first, you're never going to be taken down the pathway of darkness, shall we say. You can always trust that you are going to receive exactly what it is that you're asking for. However, I say the big however, okay? The reason I put a however in is, if we don't believe and we're bound by fear, it can be a bit of a barrier, but it doesn't have to be a complete barrier, okay? You can still have angelic experiences while you're a skeptic, and I love hearing those stories, I've got to be honest. But anyway, you've got nothing to lose by giving it a go, nothing to fear, and I look forward to hearing your experiences. So I'm going to give you some information that I understand about Remiel, and based on my experiences, and some of it is inconclusive, just so you know, but I'm leading somewhere with this. As we connect with angels and we feel their energy and presence and we experience their blessings in our life, I find as a human being, sometimes I get favorites, and I know that's potentially not a good thing. And it's lucky actually that angels don't have egos and get upset about things like that, because where I'm going with this is Remiel's actually up there as one of my favorites, okay? His name means mercy of God. Now, I don't honestly know if this is a variation of the Archangel Jeremiel, okay, because there's a lot of similarities between the gifts that Remiel and Jeremiel do as far as sharing, and whether or not Remiel is simply an abbreviation of his name. But either way, it doesn't really matter. What I understand his role to be, or his goals of creation, is this: people that work directly with him are actually focused on justice. They have a real burning desire to see justice translate in the world around us, and they like to have justice that is tempered with this wisdom and understanding. So this is guidance that he brings through. There's a level of compassion. You'll get this as we go into it. There is also the aspects of forgiveness. What can I say? Actually, I'll talk about forgiveness in a moment. I'll talk more right now about his other gifts, which is the prophetic dreams and the visions. I call them the seeing dreams. And he also has another role of what is referred to as supporting the transition of people from their bodies back to the spirit. You know, some people might call them lost souls, especially if they don't actually believe in God, or they don't have a faith and they let go of their body. Sometimes they can feel a bit lost after they've let go of the body. Well, Remiel will help out in those instances, and direct them to the right pathway, if you like, and escort them. I shouldn't say just direct. It's not like, yeah, up there, turn right, you know. It's not like that. He'll actually lead them through to where they need to go for the next phase of their soul growth. Anyway, today we're going to be talking primarily about his functions of teaching mercy and forgiveness, because these are really important aspects of life and living. Sorry, every now and again I catch myself smacking my lips. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, first of all, to understand what mercy means, it really is this tempering of balance with wisdom, with understanding, and it is underpinned by this sense of fairness and justice. It is the balance of perfection with imperfection, and it is a basic concept of creation. It's the middle road between too much and too little. For want of a better description, it is about feelings and emotions as well. And the balance of feelings and the power of thought, the power of emotion and the power of thought. There's a balance in there as well. Too much feeling and you can just burn yourself out. Too much thought and you can just become overwhelmed with, mind chatter. But anyway, the message here is that God, the Creator, knows everything about us, and therefore He has this capacity of understanding and is able to forgive. Let me think on how to phrase this properly. I think probably a better way for me to describe it is that because the Creator knows everything about us, He or she, whatever you want to call it, whether it's God, Goddess, they know, they understand what motivated us to take a certain pathway or to make a decision that might have been unwise or unhealthy or had repercussions. And this actually even includes if we do harm, okay? I know I might actually have to share a story here. I never did actual real harm. I made some errors of judgment at some points in time, in the heat of the moment, and they were impulse-based reactions. And my temper flared. It was actually about justice, I might add. I'd seen an injustice. I felt that something immoral had happened, and I went off like an absolute firecracker. Now, what I recall with that afterwards, because I was working actually directly with Remiel at the time on something and the divine. And I remember I walked away from this because even though I had tried not to go off like a firecracker, I felt that I had actually mishandled the situation and that I could have been more loving and kind in the process. But what I do get the recollection is to try and explain what the love feels like is, as I have walked away, hangdog would be a good expression of mine. I felt pretty hangdog, like, the dog with its tail between its legs and, not very impressed with itself. But I felt that I had the full love of the angels. And in that context, I wouldn't say, support, because if we do something that's not necessarily wise, it's not like they're going to sit there going like, yay, go you, go you. What they will do is feel our pain as well. And, in fact, actually, I felt like I got a message saying, oh my God, she's so cute. She is such a little firecracker, but by gosh, she's going to regret that, was actually the feeling that I got through on that particular day. And I thought, understatement. And now I have humour. Not everybody has, as far as I know, some people can be very serious in regard to their interactions with the higher beings. Now, I've always found that mine are quite jokers. They can be quite jovial. And where am I going with this? So I actually have got cross at them at different times is where I'm going. It's like, it's not funny. That was one of those days. It's not funny. I don't think it's funny that you think that I'm cute when I fire up, Just sharing a little bit of extra information here. But anyway, going back to Remiel, he definitely does inspire the higher impulses and emotions because he guides community leaders and countries to adopt fairness into their policies and their laws, which is actually interesting. There's me talking about I was interacting and drawing upon his energy. I was actually doing law enforcement at the time as well. There's a little tidbit about me I bet you didn't know. Anyway, working with his energy, merciless dictatorships will eventually disappear. And the message is that where there is forgiveness and understanding in the heart, these people will become leaders. Well, that's the guidance, okay? I say I remain open to be fully persuaded of these words that were not channeled by me, but have been shared with me. So I better try and hurry up, otherwise we'll never get this video finished and I better stop waffling. Okay, so he is one of the Golden Light Order angels. There is a focus on healing energy and the wisdom of emotions when it comes to the golden light angels. They provide a magnetic balance for the other angels. All the other angelic orders, they're white light angels, and their focus or essence is more on the power of the mind and thought, if you like. So the golden light angels tend to balance that out. Now, they have a very strong sexual or kundalini type energy. It's passion, okay? So we have to just acknowledge that. If you're not comfortable with that word, I'm really deeply sorry about that, but that's what it is. And they tend to be able to go with the rhythm of life, if you like. Their emotional energy can actually be very intense. It can even be overpowering at times. And as I said before, the white light angels, they're more thought or mental power type thing, focus the attention, focus the power of the mind. And because they're so focused on the mind power, they will quite often actually deny the importance of feelings. I'm not talking about the angels specifically. I'm talking about the people that actually work with the white light angels. They will be the ones that turn around and say, no, it's the thought that comes before the feelings. The chicken and the egg argument. People will say that it was an idea first, and other people will say, no, it was a gut instinct first. I'm not even going to go down that pathway because I think the jury's out. I think that's one of those things that it depends on the person. Okay, so anyway, as I said before, the golden light angels, from a generic perspective, not just Remiel, they do have this focus on justice and fairness because they are emotionally focused as well. And obviously, when things or life is unfair, that creates some pretty intense emotional responses. Anyway, what Remiel is able to give to us helps us to address those life challenges. Okay, so let's move on and talk about what he offers us as blessings. So, bearing in mind that mercy is this balance, okay, the first bit of wisdom or questioning or reflective opportunity that is given to us by Remiel is ask yourself, do you expect too much of yourself? Do you relentlessly and mercilessly push yourself forward and expect yourself to achieve things? Okay, push yourself harder than you would ever give to anybody else, or any kind of pressure. So basically, he says, have mercy on yourself. He encourages you to love your neighbours as you love yourself. So this is interesting. From a biblical, if I can speak, from a biblical perspective, this is a commandment I associate with do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But if we're talking about having mercy on ourselves, the point is that quite often we might not have expectations of our neighbours. We might not be pushing them as we do ourselves. So there's that swing and roundabout type stuff, okay? But another point that Remiel makes is the more that we understand other people, the easier it is to forgive them. If not, find love for them, okay? Because ideally we want to be able to love thy neighbour, but sometimes that might be a bit of a challenge for us mere mortals, but at least even if we can't love them, we can find understanding, compassion, empathy, and recognition and understanding of their motivation and their driving forces, even if we don't appreciate the actions that they take. Now, what Remiel says is many people are taught to fear and hate differences because they simply don't understand them. And this is especially the case when it comes to cultures and religion. And we can see that in the world around us today. All these conflicts are about cultures, religion, lifestyle, and this kind of thing, and even grasping for money. But what he says is the more we understand, the more able we are to hold compassion through this recognition. So let's go back just a moment to that little, not physically with the slides, but let's go back to that comment before about if you want to know and understand, take a look at your neighbour. This is because what we see in others is a reflection of something that is going on within ourselves, okay? And this is what we're going to unpack today with this video with the guidance of Remiel, is that ignorance by definition is a lack of understanding and a lack of knowledge. And this is what causes persecution, wars, and the extinction of entire populations. Now, from a karmic perspective, you might this might be a little bit out there for you to grasp onto right now, but some of you will probably get into it immediately. From a karmic perspective, you may well have been a persecutor in a previous life or a past life, or you could have been a victim in one, or you might be a victim today, but in your next life you might be a persecutor, okay? And whatever these events are, they are stored in the cellular memory of our soul and spirit body, and these bring with them beliefs that are being played out in our current life right now, which I find fascinating. Now, you can do some little exercises with yourself or just some reflection, okay? Because I think reflection on that particular content is really good. What Remiel says is ask him to open your eyes and expand your understanding and awareness. And in the process, reflect on your own responses and behaviors about this subject that I just mentioned, about the possibility that you may have been a persecutor or a victim in a previous life. Is, how do you respond when you watch the news, especially when we talk about religious wars and topics such as ethnic cleansing? Do you respond with an emotional rage and hurt about these actions and behaviours? And obviously we get a lot of people do, thankfully. When you watch documentaries on planetary destruction, such as the rainforest and the habitat, he encourages you to allow your rage to come to the surface. If you are infuriated and angry at some of these things that are happening, let this rage be expressed, okay? But we're going to talk about how to express it in a moment, because obviously you're not going to let it rip in a public setting. He says, reflect on the earth lessons of history. Think about things, the Holocaust, the actions of the Khmer Rouge, the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I mean, even the Trail of Tears for the American Indians. What's happening with the indigenous people across the globe in places such as South America, even today, where people are becoming displaced because of the clearing and felling of their forests. I mean, the same is happening in Papua New Guinea, with people whose homes are being lost to mining. When you think about these kind of experiences, how do you feel? Now, the other thing is too, potentially you're hearing me talk about this and thinking, well, I'm not seeing or sensing anything divine or angelic about this. This is the stuff that we all want to avoid. None of us really want to think about this stuff. None of us want to give consideration really to the Palestine-Israeli conflict if we're not living in the place. He says, have a look, explore your feelings about what you feel and think about these kinds of situations, because they reveal to you, they hold revelations for you. We can't actually expand our awareness and transform ourselves unless we're willing to face the darkness, shall we say. There is this, how would I explain it? To transform, we have to be fully honest and transparent. I'll give you the message, okay? When we feel overwhelmed with grief or disgust at how humans can treat each other this way, you might feel a sickness in the pit of your stomach. These are all the first phases of healing, okay? It's really important you allow yourself to feel these. Sometimes you might experience feelings of terror, if you were the victim. It might be terrifying as you go through these processes of reviewing your actions, but this is about gaining the courage to accept this rage that sits inside, because basically what he's saying is, when you face these darker aspects of humanity, rage will come up, okay? And because humans can be so vicious, okay? And this is why there becomes this anger and rage at them. And you will know that what he wants you to do is recognize that under certain circumstances, you could be that person that is doing the horrible stuff, okay? Very few people have not experienced a really painful relationship where they've actually had a desire to either kill or hurt another person. But they have the capacity to stop themselves acting upon the emotional impulses. Now, while the capacity to control these emotions is usually one of guilt, because they'll beat themselves up afterwards. A bit like me talking about my tail between my legs when I was talking about the other one. I didn't want to get violent. I got angry. And so that's quite a lighter example of what we're talking about here. He's kind of saying, that old judge not, or you might be judged, because if you were walking 10 miles in their shoes, would you do the same? You don't know. We don't know until we're put into this situation. But because good people don't like to think of themselves as that way, they'll usually push and deny these thoughts away. If they feel anger, because anger has now become basically across society, we say that anger is, oh, you don't want to get angry. Well, the problem is, if you don't acknowledge your anger and embrace it, what he's saying is that it gets pushed away, it gets repressed, and it leaves a person feeling impotent, disempowered, and rage is the most frightening of all the emotions, okay? And what we do when we push this anger away into this dark space inside, it creates internal darkness. So, anyway, moving on to rage, because this is really important. So, his message also is that rage can be harmful to others, so we manage it in different ways. I myself would actually make the point here that I actually believe that one of the reasons we've got such a high prevalence of mental illness and conditions like anxiety and depression currently throughout the world is because people are suppressing their anger and rage at what is going on in their lives that they're not happy about, and so they lose hope. But either way, back to Remiel, how do you manage your anger and rage is the question. Do you hold it quietly inside of you, or do you run away from the things and people who you believe have triggered the anger that sits inside of you? Are you frightened of losing control of your anger? These are questions to ask yourself. Another one is, do you lash out in a temper tantrum, ranting at people or the universe in general? I have had moments of that. Okay. Have you historically hurt people, either verbally or physically? Or do you turn your anger inwards, either eat comfort foods or starve yourself? Do you throw yourself into exercise? Or, here's a good one, do you blame everyone else for how you feel? Do you have physical or mental illnesses because of this unexpressed rage and anger? And do you have poor impulse control? Do you do crazy things? Or are you so bogged down by guilt at feeling angry and wanting to lash out that you paralyze yourself, that you're locked into feeling trapped? He says that life triggers are blessings in disguise, and they are sent from the eternal, and also part of his blessing to us to help us to release these trapped emotions that are stored in our aura. We have to let them out, like this lady here having a scream. So, just reminding you here, anger is an extremely powerful emotion, and so is rage, okay? It is how we use it. But I'm going to go back to his message. Instead of feeling guilty for feeling this anger and rage, you're encouraged to be grateful for being able to feel this emotion, because it is trapped inside of you. And what he says is, call upon the Creator to guide you through releasing this anger in healthy and safe ways. Now, what you'll find as you release this anger, you could be out there, in the garden or whatever it is that you do that doesn't harm anybody else, but you have this burst of energy that you're releasing. You might be sitting there swearing and cursing at the world or whatever, if that's what you do. But you will find that as you vent this anger and you release it, it will convert. Okay? It's going to change. And it will change most likely to fear. That might be the first one that you'll feel. You'll get through the anger, and then you'll recognize that there's a fear behind this anger. And what he says is, you're encouraged to accept and express the fear as well, the feelings. Be honest with yourself. Don't allow guilt to interfere with your expression, okay? Just sit with it. Now, if you have to sit with it alone, just sit with it and know it's going to pass, okay? These emotional stages, they're transient. Now, at the same time, if they're big ones and you've got a history and that kind of stuff, you might want to sit with a therapist or a professional, or even have loved ones or family nearby to help you through this expression. What he says anyway is, at some point throughout this whole processing of anger and rage, as I mentioned, it's going to convert to fear, the anger will transform into other emotions. It might even turn into grief. It might actually be an all-consuming grief. It might be a case of you need to cry once you've got through this anger and rage. There, go through the process. Allow yourself full expression. Allow yourself to cry. Now, I know that can be hard sometimes, especially if you've very well practiced at repressing your emotions. Just be aware, though, that as you go through these releases, this process, you're going to get to a stage where you will feel empty. Okay, you've ranted at the universe, you've recognized that you're fearful, you're sad, you're crying, you're grieving, all of this stuff. Eventually, you become exhausted. You've let all of this emotion out. This is the relief. Now, what he says is at this point, when you get to this point, call to the Creator and Remiel to fill you with mercy, love, and compassion, and to open your mind and heart to new ways of approaching and resolving conflict, and then to commit to acting upon your guidance. Okay? This is the next part of the message, which I think might be challenging for some people. It's a very interesting concept, okay? What his message is that the rage you carry actually has nothing to do with the other people that you're angry at, okay? The people that have triggered your reaction. Deep down, you will know that they haven't done it. They don't deserve your anger. Your anger is actually a rage between you and the Creator, God. And I'll let you chew on that afterwards. Reflect on that, this topic after the video. Spend some time. I did. I have. Anyway, he says, avoid taking impulsive actions that either hurt yourself or harm others when you're feeling this pain and rage, but instead channel the energy into this safe release. So this is because rage can be a dangerous force, as you know. So when you decide to remove yourself from a situation because you can feel yourself becoming angry or enraged, he says, create a safe space for a safe release. The more you do this, the more you're going to recognize early when the pressure is starting to build, and you will be able to take action early to keep everybody safe. Now, equally, the other thing is, if someone tells you, and this is important, this is my little add-on, if someone tells you that they are becoming angry and enraged, or they're exhibiting signs of it, then find a way. I would encourage you to find a way to remove yourself from that situation and encourage them to take some space and come back to talk to you when they're actually calmer, as part of resolving conflict. Remiel also says, never try to force yourself to heal too quickly. Go at a safe space for you. Go at what feels right for you. And just be aware that the Creator, God, the divine, is waiting patiently for you to call for mercy and compassion so that they can intervene. So I want to take you back to that at the beginning of the video. I said the angels can only intervene when asked. So this is about learning to ask for mercy and compassion as well. And that's the blessing that comes from rage and anger. So as usual, I have given you an example of an invocation here. I'm not going to read it out to you. I'm going to truncate the video a bit shorter today. But just a reminder, these are examples of what you can do as an invocation. You can tweak these, you can create your own. But the other thing is, obviously, always call upon Creator first, always end under grace, an invocation under grace in the divine way, with gratitude. I just want to make the point that as you do your invocations and that kind of stuff, don't forget to ask for mercy for yourself, and to direct the healing energy towards you. Then the other tidbit is, because remember, Remiel is associated with planetary consciousness as well, and healing areas. And so, of course, you could actually call upon Remiel to send the Creator and Remiel to send their mercy, their wisdom, compassion, etc., to places where there's conflict. There's so much of it in the world right now. You could even find a map and put a pin on it, really, and just say, let's send beautiful love and healing light to this area, so that they can get compassionate and loving, responsible leaders might be a good thing to do. Okay, so if you do this kind of thing, I would be really interested to hear how this rolled out for you. But otherwise, look, I just want to say, sometimes, you know what? sometimes when you're doing an invocation, you can actually just do an invocation. I want to feel you, come close to me, come into my aura. You know what I mean? You can just look to build your connection. You don't have to have a purpose to try and connect with the angels. Sometimes it's just about getting close, like I say. Anyway, moving on. And of course, what would it be if I didn't remind you about appreciation and gratitude being part of the ascension, or one of the ascension attitudes, and part of raising our personal vibration? And the more gratitude and appreciation a person has, if I can speak, that magnetic quality, remember, the more you hold, the more you attract, the more you live. So it's a wonderful, beautiful cycle and circle of gratitude and appreciation. So there we go. Thank you. And with that in mind, of course, thank you very much for being part of my journey. As usual, I hope the content has been interesting for you. Have a blessed day, blessed week. I shall catch you on the next video. In the meantime, of course, if you like the content, click the like. If you like the channel, click subscribe. If you feel like it, no obligation. And I look forward to catching up with you. Please feel free to leave a comment. Speak to you soon. Bye bye for now. Bye.